Does anybody have to leave earlier, and has a question? Please raise your hand if that is your situation. Cool. Does
Let me turn
anybody
my
have-
video off to have lunch because you don't need to see me eat.
We love to see you eat, David.
No, you don't. Well, I don't need to see me eat. I don't need
Alright,
a
fair enough.
recording of me eating.
Fair enough. Does anybody have kind of something they think might be a quick question? Kind of a 10, 12-minute question? Raise your hand if you think you do.
I have a question, but I don't think it's going to be short.
Well,
So,
try it.
Just to let you know.
Yeah, yeah,
You're going through your
We'll
checklist.
cut it off.
yeah.
Yeah, I can be cut. All right, so I have an interview and I would like to do something fun with our exit screen. So if we do not have a judgment in front of you, I get this, and I would like to add a button that says, here we're telling them to call the clerk and get them a copy of their judgment. I want to help them call a courthouse that's at least in their area, I think. It may not be the right one, but best bet is one that comes up in our court locator with their address. And so I want to add a button that's find a clerk, asks them for their address, and then just shows the court locator, and then they can pick one from that list, and then on the last screen, third screen, gives them the court location and telephone number so that they can try calling someone.
So you can actually, in your list of buttons,
Mhm.
you can have an action button that leads to a page or that runs a code block that has the that I think sets that value. I think, or it has an event. Does anyone remember if it needs to have an event or if it sets a value?
Either will work, I think.
I have tried both of that and I can't get it to work. And I guess I have sometimes gotten the first page to come up, but then any subsequent pages don't work because essentially I'm trying to use questions that exist in the interview.
So you want to trigger a code block, and then in that code block, you want to name you. It's like an interview order block. It's like a mini interview order block where you have to say every one of the questions and variables that you want to trigger.
Professor O'Leary would kill me. I just spelled judgment with an E in it. So like, I guess.
So just the name of the action there.
Here or here?
Nope, on the same line, just like the other buttons. So yeah, let's try clerk. Go ahead and delete the line underneath. Make a new block that's a code block. And in it, do clerk equals true.
Sorry, clerk, what's true?
Equals true. Yep. Then above that, put a variable that you'd be looking for, like user 0.address.address. And I think this should work.
Yeah.
Maybe you need an event.
So I think what we want to do is this. I'm sending a link in the chat. So you want to because right now you're trying essentially, DocAssembly treats buttons that are quote special buttons that are like restarting the interview or exiting the interview or like redirecting you somewhere else. Like those are what DocAssembly considers special buttons, and you're mixing a button that is setting a variable or like an action button. And so I think it's what at least the like recipe example is right on before line 120, right before buttons, or right above buttons, I guess, is you'll add field, and their example is user choice, which is okay. So fields : user choice to just say like this is, and maybe a better name, but essentially that's like now it's going to be like it's either going to be, you're not, this essentially sets a field and it's not, or it sets a variable, that variable is either going to be exit, restart, or click. And then this is where, like, this is sort of the code block that Michelle was talking about that you're going to make, which you'll have to sort of combine what you're doing with click with the exit and restart there.
So I think more what I'm talking about is like action buttons. I think they can be combined. I think you might just need to, I put the link to the documentation in the Zoom chat. Because otherwise we could, that is a slightly longer. I think otherwise you end up working with like interview order in a way that's more complicated. I think if we could avoid that, can you not have action buttons on the same page as, I believe if you have action buttons, you can give them that same text. You can give them restart and exit. I believe you can give them that same text and they will still do the right things.
Yeah, I have to do it a little bit more manually, right?
Well,
By
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, like you will
Like,
have
I would
to
have
use
to
action buttons. You'll have to specify, like
yeah,
you have to specify the label, the action, and like
and the color.
usually then the color and stuff. Whereas
Yeah,
the special
okay.
buttons like come pre-colored usually.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you can leave the color off and it'll be blue and stuff. I think it may be worth trying out just to, both of those, I think
yeah.
Bryce's way totally works. I just think that then the interview order gets a little bit of a little bit more complicated. So
which is fair. I was at a glance, I wasn't sure if action buttons, if you could just do the standard actions, or if it was, because I haven't seen, there aren't like any recipes that are doing standard actions. Like
I think if you do like colon restart and colon exit, or possibly action colon restart or action colon exit, I think they will do the same things.
Okay.
But Bryce might be right. You might not be able to do the standard actions there.
At least I know I was in the right place. I think that was really my goal. Like, am I?
Yes.
And I was trying to
combine, totally.
I was trying to combine things that don't combine well. So picking one or the other is essentially the answer. So I will share if it's even worth doing for MVP, essentially.
Perfect.
Because I'm not even sure about that. All right. Does anybody that's recently joined have a technical question that they have a time crunch? Sarah, I can't tell if you're talking to someone else or if you're nodding.
I was just nodding. I don't have a technical question. Sorry, I joined too late.
No, you are right on time.
Sarah, I'm just curious, is that Department of IT? What is that? What is Do It?
Oh, it's the Department of Innovation and Technology.
Innovation and Technology. I love that. Okay, that's a great abbreviation.
Apparently it's like a common one. Like every city has like a Do It. It's so interesting.
I'm just giving a shout out to everyone. It's Lisa, and I dialed in as a backup safety measure, and I sent a link to Aubrey. So I think we have our bases covered whenever you want to get going.
I don't think that we've got, I guess we're still a few minutes before anybody else would join for Official Teaching Tuesday, but.
No problem. I'm just here. I just want to let you know.
No, great. Thank you so much, Lisa. And I got those links, so I'm ready to back up screen share if needed.
Until 1 p.m.
Good job, everyone.
Put some timestamps in the video.
I muted myself. Hi, Aubrey. Well, it might be interesting if you show the link screen to the LibGuide and share your screen, because it'll be more like a real user experience. If I say, hey, click here, click there, maybe that'll be a good way to start off.
You got it.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Yay. Hi, everyone. I guess most of you know me, but if you don't, my name is Lisa Stansky, and my title is Technology Projects, and often morphs. I'm at Southeast Louisiana Legal Services, New Orleans office. I'm also a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for a long time. And I've done a bunch of other things, so I kind of merge all those different skills into what I do now, which kind of covers a broad range. But this particular project was a federally funded TIG. I'm not going to go into all that, but some of you are familiar with TIG grants, these technology grants funded by the Legal Services Corporation to help the legal aid world come up with tech solutions or tech tools to increase access to justice. And this was a partnership among a lot of different entities. If Aubrey, you scroll down a little bit, you'll see our project partner logos on this, including funder logos. And me, just so people know there's a real person behind it, the librarians who taught me how to use this software. And if you'd please scroll back up, the librarians who taught me how to and shared the software platform with me use their photos. So I was a little reluctant, but I did. This was part of the Louisiana State Bar Association's Legal Education and Assistance Program. The purpose of this was to make librarian-friendly information guides and included links to automated forms for a set of legal issues. I've done this project 2 different times with 2 different funding cycles. And this resource was important because on our statewide law help site, our statewide legal information site targeted at low-income people, for a long time, this was the absolute runaway highest in demand item on our legal information site. And so I thought, good candidate to automate. So I did this in English and in Spanish. And librarians love this format, which you're looking at, which is very text heavy, probably not what you'd necessarily opt for just a public facing presentation, but it's something librarians know and trust. So we use this format because the idea was to encourage librarians to use this resource to connect patrons with information. So this is called a LibGuide. There are usually tabs on the side as I have them or across the top. This is the home page. And if you would briefly click on each tab on the left, Aubrey, you'll see how it's organized. You've seen the home page. This is just a general information page. And if you'd scroll down a bit, you'll see that what I did is I incorporated a video I created actually a long time earlier and the FAQ, the frequently asked questions item from our statewide legal information site, which includes a fill in the blank form if people get intimidated. So we tried to create as many ways as possible. If you want to keep scrolling, people will see that if it's possible. There you go. There's the form down there. We wanted to create something that people could access in as many ways as possible. And if you would please scroll back up and move to the next tab. And we'll move back to this tab in a minute. And I don't know if people have patience for this, but Aubrey and Michelle really like this. And I'm going to put in a plug for this free software. You can upgrade so you don't have watermarks, but this is another way of displaying information. If people have about 90 seconds, we could play the biteable video, which is just another way to introduce people in a friendly way to this whole concept of using online forms. What do you think? Do you think people have a minute for that?
I think I need to share my screen so it brings in the audio, but if you want to use the time, let's definitely do it. So in a second.
Okay, great. And I may click out of a few things to increase my bandwidth.
All right. Okay, if I play it, Lisa?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Can we hear it?
And you can expand it if you want, but you don't have to. I created this when I was site administrator for our statewide public information, legal information site, Louisiana Law Help. So, but anyway, I use this kind of thing sometimes to just create a little friendly intro, and it appears in a couple places on the LibGuide. And just scrolling quickly so we can get to the form. If we go to video quickly, you'll see that's just another way to access this, and we don't have to play it again because people have different ways of looking for info. Mailing your demand letter, the next tab, it basically gives people instructions so people can educate themselves before they do the form. And then the next one is links to some Louisiana laws about claims for unpaid wages. And what I liked about this is we have a site, the Louisiana legislature has like a bill tracker, and they post the laws online with links, so hyperlinks. So this is what I did is I pasted in the text and hyperlinked the sections so that as long as the section numbers don't change, if the law is updated, people can click that link and go to the most recent version of the statute, though we always have disclaimers. And we don't have to do the survey and everything, but we have an embedded survey. That was one requirement of our grant. So people can take the survey and provide feedback. And then I created some caveats about using different internet browsers because, things were constantly changing. This project is already a few years old, so things, change at warp speed. So that is the format, and this is really designed to make librarians comfortable with this resource and comfortable with sharing it with library patrons, library customers. So I'm going to let my screen stop pixelating, and then maybe we can go back to the tab, which is creating your online form. There we go. And if you would go to click here, this will migrate us to the national server, Law Help Interactive, which hosts it used to host all, but now there are new venues, but this hosts a really substantial chunk of the interactive. And before we go further, I want to just say a little bit about Law Help Interactive. This hosts the templates I programmed to do the document assembly and the corresponding online interview. It also processes the input and spits out the output. So it's a national server and a hosting site that is available to the national legal aid community. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see they do the same cute video thing. They had an outside entity create their really nice helper video, which I really loved, but it was probably a tool that wasn't available to us for free. So they have that. So this is Law Help Interactive, and basically the way I created this resource is it takes two different programs you may have heard of before. One is a commercial program distributed probably pretty widely in the private legal sphere called HotDocs, and that will automate a Word document. It also will automate now a PDF, and we do it in Word RTF format, and you create variables and you program those. And then you pair that with something, an online interview created in something called Access to Justice Author, created by Cali. Some of you may have heard of John Mayer at Cali out in Chicago, CALI, Computer Assisted Legal Instruction. They are the brainchildren behind that, if I have that correct, and it hasn't changed. So what happens is you have to have compatible HotDocs templates and Access to Justice Author templates for these automated products. The Access to Justice Author template is the venue that person first goes to, the platform. They input information that gets merged through Law Help Interactive into the HotDocs form, and then it generates a document. So we're going to see that whole process. I hope I'm explaining it clearly enough. So your variables have to be compatible, and I can talk a little bit more, as a friend says, talk texture, a little bit more about that later. But if you'd like to click Start as a Guest, it's a really brief form and interview. And since Aubrey, since you're doing that, you can create your own name. You can do whatever you like, but you do have to agree to the terms of use. And we're not going to create an account right now. So we're going to enter the world of Access to Justice Author, which is a graphics-driven interactive platform that creates an online interview. And you can see you're on the path to the courthouse, which in this case will be the path to the post office, really. Aubrey's agreeing to the terms of use, or not just the terms of use. She's saying she understands what's going on. And as you see, it has some qualifying questions, and it's just binary for now. So that's something I'm sure that, great. I love letting other people do that because they come up with fun and creative names. And here, the Learn More feature, Aubrey, if you would click on that for a moment, just to show people that you can incorporate helper items. There you go. And we don't have to go through that to the other website, but whoops, oh, here we go. So you can add in your address. I'm going to have a slight delay on my end. And if I'm going too quickly or too slowly, folks, just give me some feedback and let me know. And you'll see it's pretty straightforward. You can't type in the date easily, so this might confuse some users, and there are instructions. You can create this in a more sophisticated way where it won't allow somebody to move forward. I probably did program this, so if someone put in today's date or a future date, it would knock them out. You can create that delimiter, and I'm trying to remember, I probably did that. I hope I did. And then you can put in the amount of wages owed, and it gives instructions on how to enter those numbers. And let's see where Frank lives. And you'll see it's pretty brief.
That was fast.
And you can, I have tried this one on my phone, and I don't have the most sophisticated smartphone, and it did work on my phone. And you have options here. And, you know, we give people some safety instructions, like if they're using public computers and everything.
Let me change my share, Lisa, so that you can see the product.
Great, thank you.
There we go. So this is what I got when I hit download.
And, you know, people can also choose to email the product to themselves. They can choose to save. If they create a free account, you can save answers. You can always go back and edit your answers and redo it. And, you know, it just has a lot of different options to account for, you know, safety issues. So it's all formatted there. And it's pretty quick, you know, so that's that in a nutshell. Now, there have been some advances. Access to Justice Author has been modified in several ways, where you don't necessarily have to use hot docs in conjunction with Access to Justice Author. I have not done this myself yet, but apparently you can do the entire document assembly and the interview within Access to Justice Author, which has been mobile optimized. I've also used there's a PDF developer in Hot Docs, and I've used that. You can also just run this in Hot Docs. You know, I've done Hot Docs without Access to Justice Author. That is better for more sophisticated audiences because it lacks the graphic interface. You can do pop-ups. It's less intuitive and less, you know, sympathetic to the user. So that is it in a nutshell. I mean, basically, you have a list of variables, just like with your programs. The key thing is that Access to Justice Author has some different parameters from Hot Docs. So what I do when I start one of these projects, I always program my Hot Doc first. And I import my Hot Doc variables into Access to Justice Author before I get started on that template. because then I know that all my variables that are not the ones that are native to Access to Justice Author are there and programmed, and I don't have to worry about programming a variable in Access to Justice Author that will not work with hot docs. I think that's the better way to go. Other people may use the opposite order of process. So that's really all there is to it. And you get you basically get a link, a test link on a Law Help Interactive that you can embed in a site. That Biteable software gives you embeddable code and I believe a link. I have to go back to some of those videos, I mean, because that software may have morphed since the last time I used it, but someone in our community told me about Biteable, and I just really love it because they have the templates. It makes your work look a lot more professional in terms of video creation than it would otherwise. And this particular resource has two kinds of videos. I did an automated PowerPoint old school years ago, which is the FAQ video. And then I did the Biteable video with the sound track and everything. And they're like kind of light years apart, though they serve different purposes. So that's it in a nutshell. I hope I didn't go over time, but I'm happy to answer any questions people have.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, Lisa.
Well, because I came in.
Oh,
I
and
must have
I
done
think
it.
David has
Yeah,
some
We have a
visitors.
very new, recruit.
Oh, sorry. my son
Very
just got
cute.
home.
Maybe I think we should have this tested by people in the under 5 range.
So Lisa, I
Oh,
don't
my
have
eating wasn't too loud now that I realized I wasn't muted.
no, I didn't notice it, but I don't have a question, Lisa, but I guess it's really interesting to see what, how a different audience changes how you think about your build. The first site that we were on, that purple screen, you said that focus was for librarians. And then do they share the A2J Author / Hot Docs tool with the public? And so you kind of transition into a different audience there with that link? Am I getting that
That's
right?
a great question. And that's a question that the answer is not necessarily known for, because these resources with the library-friendly presentation are posted online. They're really kind of hard to find on the Louisiana Supreme Court site, but they get pretty heavy usage. So people are finding them, tried to use lots of metadata and everything, but they are finding them, and they were finding them like even during I was a little nervous because when I published them and I hadn't formally announced them, they were getting usage. So I guess what we are hoping is librarians either share the whole thing or kind of maybe take patrons through it enough to say, here is the resource, here's where you go on the resource, without delivering legal advice. The whole idea is to package all the legal information so librarians don't cross that line. And the resource itself informs people that it is not legal advice. And there's always a disclaimer, always a warning saying it's always best to seek legal counsel first if you can secure it. It's just that for this kind of issue, really hard to find a lawyer. It's just, even though there is a clinic in town, and they were very interested in this, one of the law schools has a wage claims clinic, and they said, wow, you're getting such high numbers with this. We'd like to see some of those numbers with our actual live clinic. So we were able to partner with them and help them maybe gain some traction, maybe even by, promoting this resource or knowing how it was structured. So that's an excellent question we don't entirely know the answer to. We do know that some folks use the whole resource, and the analytics are very good for the LibGuide. I can see which individual tab certain numbers of people are going to. I can see if more people are going straight to the Forms tab, or if they're looking at the statutes, or if they're looking at the information screen. It's really interesting. Or the survey, and that's really helpful, because some people, they just breeze through. They don't really want to read about what they're going to do, or either they already know what they need to do, or they're just in a very pressing situation. They just want to move directly to the resource. So I always try to build in cautionary language, even in the online interview, because you never know exactly where your end user is joining you in the process. before they actually click that link. You don't know what they've read unless you create a resource. I used to create a resource where people had to go all the way down to the bottom of a very long and involved text text resource to find the link to take them to the online forums, and they still had heavy usage because there were so many caveats, and we wanted to make sure people really knew what they were getting into. We put the link at the bottom of a really long basic FAQ or Q&A resource, and people still, either they scrolled down or they read it. So we created some hurdles in the past and people cleared those. So I'm not sure, but we're hoping that this will make these resources more librarian friendly and more public, friendly to the general public. So that's a really long answer to your question.
Is a great answer, and I thank you so much again. I really like that line that you just said for myself. That's something I'm going to take away, that you don't know where your end user is joining you. Like in this economy of sharing links, you've no idea where they entered, and what they've read and what they don't know and how it's been framed. So that's my personal takeaway. I don't know if anybody else has any comments or questions. Say.
I have a quick question. You mentioned that it was at least AJ now is mobile optimized, and I was sort of curious going through the interview. I guess most of it was taking place on a little tiny screen. I don't know if it's super hard to Aubrey to go back to the interview and just shrink your window to be mobile sized and see how it actually looks, so we can see how it actually looks if it were the size of phone. Because there's a lot of I guess sort of aesthetic information outside.
The LibGuide is not necessarily mobile optimized, but the A2J Author interview, that they've tried to mobile optimize the A2J Author site. So I should clarify that.
Okay.
So it changed the view as I dynamically changed the A2J Author. Did you, is that what you meant, Bryce?
Yeah. This is exactly what I meant. Just what it looks like if it's on a tablet or phone size screen. I was assuming that they didn't just shrink it so the people were still there.
Got it. Did it do that for you in my screen share? Did it make it small?
Yes.
And you lost it?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if it was.
Oh, no. Yeah, we can see it. Okay. Yeah,
And
that might be
fun
interesting.
little.
Oh, go ahead, George.
Fun little bit of history. A2J Author originally was written in Flash, so that prompted the recent rework.
Yes, and I found that even though I updated all my links, I actually have to redo some of my oldest resources, or they may just get retired because they're so old that there are changes to other things that might necessitate just taking them down. But I had some things that I knew I updated, and sometimes things fall through the cracks, or maybe some links didn't take, and that Flash transition was a big deal. So when we went from A2J Author 4 to 6, that Flash went away. So that was a really big deal a while back. But I also have to stress, these are all pretty much WYSIWYG editors. I mean, Hot Docs is not tough to program. I mean, because I did not come from a programming background. I did a lot of the tutorials and everything. And A2J Author is also highly intuitive. But I do feel that there are a couple of little steps you can take to make your life easier. And there are things that I also see as mini bugs, in my own work in A2J Author. For example, when I do an address where you have something like 6th Street, it's a little tough to program sometimes to make sure that the TH in 6th is not it comes out as a capital T, small h, unless you do some things. So sometimes using uppercase or all lowercase, I mean, sometimes there are tricky things there. And also it used to be that A2J Author would accommodate Canadian postal codes, which allowed letters as well as numbers. And if you wanted to lock something down so someone couldn't enter a typo in their zip code and accidentally hit a letter in the US instead of all numbers. But what is interesting is you get your output as a Word document, it's editable. So we always encourage people to proof their work, and hopefully people who are sophisticated enough to use the program can also read their work product and fix it. And we always stress, if anything's wrong, go back and redo your interview, read your output. So make sure everything's there. So that's, you know, part of the advice. And that was in the little biteable movie as well. So people know you can do it over, you know, there's no limit on that. So it's just a different way of looking at it. You know, just a different kind of interactive platform.
Yeah. Well, great. And thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate you sharing your time and sharing your project with everyone. It's really.
I appreciate all of y'all, because like listening to you makes me think about ways to improve anything I do. I mean, because you're always focused on who's going to be using these, and, you know, what contingencies do we have to account for, you know, what different situations do we have to, you know, adapt to. So this is really helpful to me as well. But I don't know, does anybody have anything else? My Zoom goes in and out because my connection, partially because of storms here, my connection's a little unstable. So I'm on the phone, I can hear everything, but my screen sharing is zapping in and out. So Aubrey, I'm so grateful to you. You had a fantastic idea about taking over the link, and that really helped. But if anyone wants anything else explained about the LibGuide and or the templates or the other work, I'm happy to answer or chase down an answer.
Yeah, thank you. And just for time, I'm also going to open the floor back to our regularly scheduled Teaching Tuesday. So if anybody has another question, but just make sure we get those in our allotted time.
Thank you, Lisa, for
Thank
sharing
you.
that.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
Oh, no problem. Do we only have a couple minutes left? I'm sorry. I hope I didn't.
No,
no, we have
we've
more
got
time.
the full half hour. We had people join a little bit closer.
Okay.
To the start, so
feel free. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think that we have more questions, so no Teaching Tuesday questions. All right.
Oh, no more Teaching Tuesday questions at all?
No, I'm just saying I don't think that we have. I mean, I don't think unless Audrey has one, or the remaining students that were here earlier have thought of something. But I also, I don't have a question for Teaching Tuesday. I don't have questions.
Used your question already.
Yeah.
Hmm?
I've asked enough questions today. I'm done.
Done forever. Of course, Lisa. That was pretty cool.
That was really, really cool, Lisa. And really, like that like you never know where someone's coming in is going to stick in my brain now. That's like going to be my new hot thing.
I know that's a very good piece of advice. I did also like the claymation-y looking animation default, the CGI animation.
I was gonna say the animation.
I love the clay people on Biteable. But
what is the
that's like my
watermark? What does it cost to remove that watermark? Do you know?
I don't know, because I assume we didn't have money to do it, so I don't. I thought, well, any cost might be too much, but I think they have a staggered pricing plan, so it might not be that steep, frankly. But they have really good. The free version has really great templates. I mean, really great templates. A huge host of soundtracks. And I think also for the more advanced versions, like I wanted to know if I could like record my own voiceover and use a soundtrack, which would be a little more complex. Like you can do some technically more complex things if you pay. So, and I like the mantra. I mean, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying they seem to do it by subscription. So it's, you know, like $20 a month versus $50 a month.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, I'm sure most of these things have like different.
I know. I'm sorry.
Like
That's yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, it changes if you do it for a year or a month. It's much more expensive if you're. Yeah. So it's like basically it's, you know, a couple $100 or $1,000 a year.
Yeah, depending on what level of access you want, you know, all that kind of thing. You know, it's like anything. I checked out a lot of different animation softwares and programs in the past, and they kind of just ran huge spectrum in terms of cost and difficulty and like what they offered at different levels. So But the thing that I think I got this from being a journalist, that thing that's now Aubrey's mantra about you don't know where your person is meeting you in the process, because when I write, I assume that people don't know anything when they come to my resource, that they're coming with a blank slate. And so I think that's kind of a good thing to bear in mind, that you can't assume people know X, Y, or Z. And it's helpful, I think, for simplicity's sake.
I think it's a difficult balance to hit because you can't explain everything from square one in every situation. Like, I think there's some choices you often have to make about, have to assume a certain level of information at some point, or there's just, you have to teach too much in order to let the person move forward.
That's true too. And that's why we create the context resources, because you're correct. This interview would be 3 hours long if you had to take people from absolute square one to the finish line. You're correct. Absolutely.
All right. Is A2J Author free? It's a free tool, yes?
It is for the legal aid community. And I'm wondering how broad that definition is. And I'm sure John Mayer is really receptive to people reaching out to him. But since I'm in the national legal aid community, it's free to us. So, and
But to
Hot
clarify,
Dog
there's a distinction between A2J Author, and at least like I noticed that this is being hosted, or the form we just watched was being hosted on LHI, which I don't think is free, right? Unless they have some
LHI
membership in it.
that's a good question because I'm not in upper management here. LHI is sort of free. I mean, we have access to it, but what I am not certain about is whether our legal aid or legal services program, along with every other legal services program in the country that has any kind of involvement with statewide websites or anything, I don't know if we have to pay any fees to like Pro Bono Net or anything that indirectly or directly supports LHI. I know they're making LSC has announced some changes in framing tech proposals in the future, where a portion of your tech grant proposals must include some support for LHI. But so to be completely honest, I don't have 100% all of the details of the financing of LHI. We did not have to pay a specific fee to host these resources on that site, but whether our organization supports that financially in another way or through other fees, I don't know.
I think most of their money comes from LSC, and then Pro Bono Net will do work with you as contractors for a fee, and a lot of that goes back to support LHI as far as the survey. So it's a question of whether or not you have them help you do the development.
Yeah, like there are a lot of different kind of paths, and there are, the legal aid tech community's definition is always morphing a little bit. So, we're strict LSC or like substantially LSC funded entity, so that puts us in a certain category where the rules for us may be different than the rules for a different organization looking to do the same kind of work.
Great. Well, if we have no more Teaching Tuesday questions for Lisa or for DocAssemble items, I'm going to stop the live stream.